Alright, welcome everybody. This is Christian from Sterling Knight Gamers, and today I'm going to do a ranking of all the Rebel Hero Squadrons. There's quite a few of them, so I'm just going to go through these relatively quickly. The first one, I gave her the top spot because you can orchestrate a whole strategy around this ship, and that is Jan Ors. Jan Ors on the Moldy Crow is incredibly useful. Speed 3, perfectly average. It will go along with a lot of other ships. 4 health, that's one downside of it. 3 anti-squadron, that's pretty good. Black anti-ship, always like that black anti-ship. Counter 2 is actually pretty decent, but it's best for her not to get any damage at all. And then intel, very useful. However, the best aspect of her is her text ability. While a friendly squadron is at distance 1 to 2, is defending, it can spend your defense tokens. So she has 2 braces. So all the squadrons around here, ideally X-Wings with escort, that are taking the damage for her, she can give her brace to them. And what's best about that ability is that it doesn't get affected by accuracies. So you could have your enemy roll a bunch of accuracies and 2 damage. It doesn't matter. They're accuracying against that one squadron, not against her braces. So it's very useful. It can get overwhelmed when huge numbers of ships are attacking you. But if it's just a get 2 damage or 4 damage or something along those lines, it's really useful to mitigate that damage and just have it go away. Number 2 is Sarah Bay, the new A-Wing hero, and it is just an amazing card. Whenever I've used her, she's dished out so much damage. So she's counter 3, and not only that, but her crits add to the damage. I've consistently gotten 2 damage out of that counter 3, sometimes even 3. It's just amazing. She has scatter and brace, 17 points, just one more than Tycho, but a much better text ability. Just throw her in there and just dare other squadrons to attack her. She's single-handedly taken down like Darth Vader and like other people like that. Just keep on attacking her, and she can scatter their damage that they're doing to her and just deal a huge amount back. However, she does have a weakness of IG-88 that ignores counters, as well as Saber Squadron and other squadrons that will have snipe in the future. She's all about doing those counters. Otherwise, she's just mostly a regular A-Wing. Number 3, Dash Rendar. Who doesn't love rerolls? A Speed 4 Rogue Bomber, that is awesome. And the fact that he can do a reroll for every ship or squadron that is at distance 1. If you're doing an attack on a ship, you're guaranteed to be able to re-roll that bomber dice. And with the 4 anti-squadron, it's great there too. It's 24 points, so it's pretty darn expensive, but the 6 hull with 2 braces make it relatively durable and is good just to mix in with a fleet, particularly with the Corellian conflict. This is a point that I've made before, but unique squadrons in these hero squadrons are particularly useful during the Corellian conflict because they can gain veteran status, which allows them to use up one of their tokens once and then a second time, and they get it back at the end of the game. So you should always do it 2 times, but it allows them to either re-roll their anti-squadron or their anti-ship one. This dash with that ability, it's pretty much impossible to get a blank on that squadron. I've had dash do some really great clutch attacks with that veteran status against ships. Number 4, I'm putting them together because they should always be together. Wedge Antilles and Dutch Vander is an amazing combo. It's expensive between the 2 of them to have them there, with Wedge being 19 and Vander being 16. However, they are just amazing together. So Dutch's power, he's a Y-Wing. He has 3 anti-squadron instead of regular 2. But whenever you score a hit against something that you roll against, you get to slide their activation slider. Something that you should also note, that he's particularly useful if you have flight commanders on whatever ship is activating him, so that way he rolls 4, so you're even more likely to do a damage. Because sometimes you could be unlucky and get a bunch of misses. But it's also important to give him veteran status as soon as you can in the campaign so he can re-roll himself. And then once you slide that activation slider, you can have Wedge Antilles come in with 6 blue die instead of his regular 4. That 6 is just devastating. You're bound to get whatever accuracies you need to take away the scatter or braces of whatever Imperial that you may be facing, and just put on some serious damage on it. So between those two, they can often kill a hero before they even get to activate if you're doing activate Squadron on them. So they're a great combo, and that's why they're number 4. Number 5 is Corn Horn, the new E-Wing hero. And what's unusual about him is that he doesn't have a text ability. He just has awesome stats. Regular E-Wing, speed 4, hull 5, 4 anti-squadron, red anti-ship, bomber. He's rogue and he snipes 4 instead of only sniping 3. He has 2 braces and he's 22 points. So he's relatively expensive, but you can throw him into a mix maybe with a bunch of A-Wings, go up there, tie them down. If they attack the A-Wings, that they get countered back themselves, and then you have Corn come in and just take out those that have counter first, and then have the A-Wings attack the rest. Great in combination of other things. Not good on their own, because if he's in distance 1 of another ship, what was the point? You wanted to be out of danger and still putting on a huge amount of damage to him. Number 6 is Han Solo. It is an amazing ability, an amazing text ability that he has, and it explains why he's so expensive. It's 26 points, one of the most expensive leaders out there, but he has 7 hull, speed 3, which is completely reasonable, but he attached with 2 blue and 2 black against Squadrons, so he definitely can put down a lot of damage, and a blue and a black against ships, but he's not bomber, but he is rogue. However, his ability that he can start in the beginning of the ship phase, right in the beginning, before any other ships have gone, particularly if you have a low bid or even 400 points and you're most likely to go second, you can have him go first before anything else. And there have been many times where I was able to take out a damaged ship or a squadron before my enemy could activate it. So if you're planning on being in second place, this is actually a pretty good addition to your squadron. He's pretty expensive, but sometimes he can be absolutely worth it. Number 7 is Hera Syndulla. Her text ability of being able to activate 2 squadrons around her as if they were rogue is really useful. Particularly if you pair her up with other heroes that don't have rogue, or making 2 rogue X-Wings. She's very expensive as well, 28 points with similar stats from Han Solo. Speed 3, 8 health this time, 2 blue, 2 black, and then a blue and a black respectively. She's rogue herself, so she can put on a significant amount of damage. She only has 1 brace token, but with 8 health, it's going to take a while to bring her down. Very useful, but make sure you team her up with other ships that you want to have them be rogue. Number 8 is Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker came out in the very beginning of the game. He's no better than the X-Wing when it comes against squadrons, but against ships he's particularly useful. He can bypass shields, so damage that goes straight through. Usually you would have your non-bombers attack a ship first and try to wear down the shields, and then have bombers go. But you should actually always have him go first before you have another wave of bombers. He has a black anti-ship dice, which is very useful, but with bomber, you can go ahead and bypass those shields, do that crit damage, and if you pair him up with Dodonna, he'll be able to choose the crit that can affect. So you can often bring down the shields or other things like that. Just some of those crits are really damaging, so if you have him with a cluster of bombers, make sure he goes first. Maybe he'll be able to knock out the shield generator. Number 9 is Nim. Nim's pretty expensive, an amazing text ability, but it's a little unpredictable for my taste. But it can be made even better with Bomber Command Center or Torn Farm to make it a little bit more useful. So his text ability is if you get a blue crit, you actually get to take away one of the defense tokens of your choosing, which is really devastating if you can take away the brace from an ISD or something along those lines. But A blue crit is relatively hard to get when you're only rolling one blue die. This would actually be much better if it was 2 or 3. Oh, well, I guess 3 a little carried away, but if I would prefer it if it was a blue blue rather than a blue black. But I guess it would be more than 21 points if that's the case. Speed 3, completely respectable. Health 6, and 21 points. 2 brace tokens. It's a very hardy, damaging bomber, but if it was just a little bit more consistent, I would rank it much higher. Number 10 is Nora Wexley. She is one of the rare kind of heroes that actually helps squadrons around her rather than just a text ability for herself. She's 17 points, so pretty affordable. Whenever a friendly squadron with bomber at distance 1 hits a crit, the defending hull zone loses 1 shield. So that's particularly useful if you pair her up with other bombers, have them all do an attack run. And it doesn't matter if she goes first or the other ones go first, it's just all the ones around her will get that ability. So obviously pair her up with other bombers, whether they be Y-Wings or X-Wings or anything else. Number 11 is Ken Farlander. He's 20 points, but the fact that he rolls 2 black die against ships and he gets to re-roll them if they don't have shields, of course, have this one be near the end. So you have other ones taking down the shields first, and then you can put on a serious amount of damage. At 20 points, though, I would probably actually normally side with 2 Y-Wings rather than just him, but that's just me, especially with Carillion Conflict, it would be more useful. But if you pair him up with an ability so that he can go twice or something like that, like with your Varus, it's extra deadly. But we're getting into the 11s here rather than some of the top 5 and the top 10. Number 12 is Nemnum. Same problem with all B-Wings. He's speed 2, and he's a more of an anti-squadron one. He has a, just like Dagger Squadron, he has a black die mixed in with the anti-squadron, and his text ability is if you get a blue crit, then it can do 1 damage to all the ones at distance 1. That's useful, but for 19 points, it's not really reliable unless you have Torn Far or if he becomes a veteran. It's okay, but it's just not a strategy for every type of game. Number 13 is the new Ketso Ano Rogue Bomber, essentially with a brace and a scatter, which is very useful. Not that many scatters on the Rebel side. At speed 4 would go much farther. 2 blue anti-ship dice and 22 points. Pretty fair price for anything that is a rogue bomber like that, especially one with a scatter. Number 15 is Biggs Darklander. I just don't see it as all that useful. Maybe if you're doing a Carillion Conflict and you're just loading up on Hero X-Wings and lots of other things that have escort, but you're not actually taking any damage away. You're just moving it around. So for 19 points, I would actually much rather just have Jan that actually reduces the total amount of damage. But again, for the Carillion Conflict, he'll be more useful. And then Lieutenant Blount, 14 points, a brace scatter, which is useful, and he makes other squadrons that have swarm be able to re-roll an additional die. That's useful, but there's only Dagger Squadron and fellow Z95 headhunters that have swarm. So if you choose him, you would have to load up on Z95s, which is one of the ships that I like the least. So again, with the combination, I just don't see it being all that useful. So that is the Heroes of the Rebellion ranked in the way that I see it. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Particularly, what would be in your top 5? I hope this has been helpful. Overall, remember that these are even better when you're doing the Carillion Conflict, because that way they get veteran status, which is always great. And I hope this has been helpful to you, and may the Force be with you. Bye.